You are here for a rent payment demo and chat. So my name is Samantha. I'm on the education and community team here at TurboTenant, and I am the face on screen for our onboarding course. If you've checked out any of those videos on how to use TurboTenant, I am co-hosting today with Krista, who is also here on the education and community team at TurboTenant. Krista is responsible for all of our blogs and our educational webinars, and also writing our weekly newsletter, The Key. And of course, we have our superstar VIP joining us, Adrian. Adrian is the principal product manager here at TurboTenant, and you are responsible for rent payments. So that's why we've got you here today. This poll is a good opportunity for us to get to understand who is in the audience today participating. We've just got a few questions there. Want to know how many years experience you have as a landlord, how many rentals you own or manage, how familiar are you with TurboTenant? How do you collect rent? And the most important question, in my opinion, pineapple on pizza. And I know you're all wondering, we're pretty evenly split as of right now.
Yeah.
Krista, Adrian, what are your thoughts, pineapple on pizza?
Man, I'm a firm no. I don't like sweets and cheese together, but I could be persuaded. What about you, Adrian?
Spending more than 5 years in New York City, I used to be a staunch non-believer in pineapple on pizza, but it has its place. It really does. So,
is that place the garbage can? Because
it can be. No, I mean, it's the sweet and savory kind of just mix. It just hits taste buds differently. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's pretty personal kind of flavor profile choice, I guess.
Valid. That's what we like to do here at TurboTenant. We get a little personal to make sure that we are in the know with all the things that you guys are, even down to what you like on your pizza.
That's right. That's right. Well, I am a pineapple on pizza fan. I like pineapple on all pizzas, especially if it's mixed with jalapenos, because I know you all wanted to know, and now you know.
Now that's weird. No, that got weird.
Okay.
Pineapple, you can put pineapple and jalapeno on a pizza.
Thanks for your feedback, Adrian.
You're so welcome.
I think we should get started. I think we should talk about rent payments. How are we feeling?
Let's do it.
All right. All right. So we're going to look at TurboTenant. This is a TurboTenant landlord portal. If you've used TurboTenant before, you are familiar with this. And if not, we are focused on rent payments today. If you have other questions outside of rent payments, we do have that chat and Q&A available. You can ask your questions, or we do have the onboarding course that I mentioned where you can walk through all the features of TurboTenant. So getting started, in my landlord account here, there's a few things going on. I have already added my property here in the properties tab. I'm not marketing because I already have a tenant in place, and I've already added my tenant to a lease profile. So from the leases tab here, I've got my lease profile set up. If I click into here, you'll see I've already got a tenant ready to go. So what we're going to do first is set up the rent payments process. We have to request rent payments from TurboTenant. If I go here into the payments tab, you'll see we've got this pop-up here letting us know that we can get started. It's free for landlords. We can automate your rent collection and your late fees with reminders and receipts. And we use the same processes that big banks use. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, Adrian, I'm setting up these payments. I already have a tenant in place. Is this the best time to set up rent payments, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, as early as you can to set up rent payments is honestly the best, mainly because it lets you have it in place when you do get a tenant. So that's why we allow you to set it up, whether you have a tenant or whether you don't, and whether or not you know what you're going to be charging for rent, or you don't. So you can skip this step as well. If you haven't decided, or if you don't know how much you're going to charge for like security deposits, et cetera. It's pretty much customizable to whatever your situation is. But I mean, the earlier that you can set it up, the better. As Samantha said, you know, we do have a security process that we have to go through just to ensure that, you know, the money is going to who it needs to go to at the end of the day. So, you know, that process, we don't want it to interfere with you needing to collect rent, you know, really quickly. So if you set up on the 25th and then you're trying to get your first payment due on the 1st, but you're not setting up until the 1st, that's going to present a problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so like Adrian said, we have this button up here to skip for now. So if you're not sure about the actual charges, I have already added my tenant. I know they're moving in June 1st, so I know I need to get those charges set up for a June 1st due date. So what I've done here is I've categorized a monthly charge, which is a recurring charge that's going to happen every month. I've categorized it as rent, put in my dollar amount here, indicated the due date and when I want these charged to hit my tenant's account. This lease starts June 1st. It's a 12-month lease that goes through the end of May. So I went ahead and set up my last month of charges for May of next year. That means that there won't continue to be charges beyond that date. Now, if you have a month-to-month lease, perhaps, or you're not sure about how long the lease term is going to be for the charge, you can always select no end date here, which will continue to push out that charge until you go in and stop it. We also have this feature to add automatic late fees. So you can either do a flat late fee like I've done here, or you can do a percentage of the amount that is unpaid. And then you can also indicate when that late fee is being applied. So if my rent is due on the 1st and I'm applying my late fee one day after, then that late fee would be applied on the 2nd. We do also have these links to late fee policies for specific states so that you can read up on the requirements or the stipulations in your area. So I'm going to go ahead and add that monthly charge. You can see right up here. I'm also going to do this one-time charge, which is for my security deposit, because I don't want this to charge multiple times over a period of time. I just want that one-time charge. So let's go ahead and add that and move on to our next screen. Now on this page, we're asking for information to link your bank account with our payment processor. You can see that this information should match the info on the bank you are using to collect rent. So let's just go ahead and add in some details here. Now I am using a test account, so not all of this information that I'm using is going to be true and accurate information. But if anybody wants to send me a birthday present, it is on June 13th. Adrian, why do we need this information? Why did you need my social security number and my address and my date of birth?
Yeah, so whether you're a company or whether you're an individual operating as like a sole proprietorship, we're going to need that information just essentially to pass through our security check, just to make sure that you are who you say you are, that the bank account information that we receive back matches up with that, just so that the money that's going out is going out correctly. So.
Perfect. And if I'm managing rentals for somebody else, let's say that I'm a property manager and I have the owner and their name is on the bank information, what do I do in that case?
So yeah, in that case, you'll just need to supply the information for that owner or for that LLC that matches that bank account. So we don't prohibit you, if I'm managing properties for my brother, for example, I just need to have his information that's going to get tied back to where that money's going at the end of the day. And we'll make sure that everything lines up. And that's one of the first processes in our security process.
Nice. And I just went through really quickly and linked my bank account. We do have the ability to link instantly by using your login credentials. Now, again, I'm in a test account, so you may have noticed I didn't actually type in login information or get a verification code. I just kind of switched through that. But when you are setting that up, you link your bank account, and it is just as fast as this is getting that set up. There is also the opportunity to link your bank account manually. What does that process look like, Adrian?
It's pretty similar. It's just straight up going to a form and entering in the owner of the account's name. So whether that's you personally or whether that's your company name, and then adding in your account number and routing number. And then we verify that on the back end outside of kind of what you see. And then it gets added to your account.
Awesome. And I see here, this is giving me the opportunity to add another bank. You can see this little star indicates this is a feature that's built into our premium plan. So if I click in here, you'll see more information about our premium plan. It is $99 for the year. And as it relates to rent payments specifically, you're going to get faster rent payment deposits if you opt in for that. You have the ability to add an unlimited number of bank accounts. And then there's also an ACH fee that can be waived with that premium plan subscription. I am not going to get premium right now, but we're going to go ahead and click next. We're confirming the setup, the lease profile, the lease term, the tenants, charges, bank account, and we're going to go ahead and finish our setup here. Perfect. You'll see that the setup is complete and I am now pending verification. So this is going to our payments and security team to make sure that I am who I say I am and to make sure that everything is set up the way that it should be. All right, now here you can see I can collect rent online soon. I have these 2 charges that have not yet been sent to my tenants. These are draft charges and they won't be sent until my account has been approved. So let's do some magic like a cooking show. Look at this, rent payments approval. I've got it. Now it is not typically that fast. It does take, I believe, 24 to 48 hours for that rent payments approval process. But here we are approved. You can see I have a total unpaid amount, but nothing yet past due. And if we go and take a look at our lease profile, here's my tenant, and we've got these sent charges. Clicking into those so you can see the details, the sent charges mean that they can be viewed and paid by your tenants. Adrian, is there a difference between the one-time charges like the security deposit and the recurring charges and when they get sent?
Yeah, so the recurring charges will be sent out about 15 days before your due date. And then the one-time charges, those are immediately sent out to your tenants. So they'll be visible in that portal. So if you have something set up in December of this year and you create it today, it'll show up in that tenant's portal. It will be categorized, by date. So it won't be like at the top if they have other things there. But at the end of the day, the notification periods are the same. So even though it's posted into your tenant's portal at the end of the day, we don't actually notify your tenants of a charge being due until about 7 days before it's due. And then I believe after that, it's 3 days and then day of. We also have automatic reminders for when they're past due too. So we'll notify them, I believe, at 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then I think like a final one at like 5 days to let them know like, hey, this charge is still past due.
Perfect. So we've got this one-time charge here. It's got the little coin indicator. And we can see that this payment will be deposited into my bank account. Then down here, we have our recurring rent charge. And you can see that matches up here with our recurring charge that's due on the 1st every month. We also have the opportunity here in the lease profile. I kind of went through this quickly, but if I click on edit, you'll see the option down here that you can allow partial payments from your tenants, and you can also allow your tenants to pay recurring charges. So set up auto pay, and you can change that within your lease profile settings. So if you do want tenants to submit partial payments, for example, with roommates, you could click yes or no if you want them to only pay the full amount of the charge. Another thing to note.
So I was going to say, if you're back on payments and if you can click on a charge, I'll call out something else. So this statement right here that says sent to your tenants on May 24th. If you ever get confused or you want to know when the last kind of like notification, whether it's an email, gets sent out to your tenant, this actually updates dynamically. So, Samantha, once this charge gets to June 1st, it'll actually go ahead and say your tenant was reminded of this charge being due today, kind of thing. Same thing with late fees. So if you ever kind of want to know where your tenant's at in terms of notifications, click on your charge and it'll let you know.
Perfect. Another thing you can do here within the charge is record offline payments. So let's say that this tenant, they actually paid me $500 with a cashier's check when they came to visit, half of their security deposit, and then they wanted to pay the other half online. I can click record payment right here, indicate the tenant on the lease that made the payment. We've got the security deposit amount here and the amount they paid. Now I could also select another charge, but again, we're doing a partial payment on a security deposit. It was a cashier's check paid today. And we're going to say cashier's check number this. And we'll go ahead and send a receipt to the tenant. Okay, we can see here, we've got that offline payment recorded, and now there's $500 due here. So what does this look like for the tenant? Well, I can show you. Look at this. Refresh our page here. And we've got our tenants portal set up right here. If I scoot into the payment section, you'll see up here, I still have unpaid charges, but nothing's past due yet. Remember, it's due June 1st. If I go into the payments tab, you'll see if I click into rent, this is an unpaid amount. $2,000. And then I have my security deposit. The whole amount has not been paid. Balance is 500, and here's that offline payment. So let's go ahead and make a payment as a tenant. Now, again, using a test account. So this is not real and true information that I'm putting in. Keep that in mind. But this is how tenants can link their banks.
So just a call out, the tenant experience is pretty similar to landlord experience when you're linking a bank account. So we utilize primarily Plaid to connect to those bank accounts, either through micro deposits, where they enter their account number, routing number, and then verify the amount that gets deposited or the code that gets deposited alongside that transaction, or they log in. Mind you, we don't see any of the information that they provide when they're doing those things. But if your tenants ever have an issue with adding their bank account method, just know that you've experienced it already. You've gone through pretty much the same exact flow. So it doesn't differ in any way. And usually it ends up, if they have an issue adding it, it usually ends up being something because they're using like a really small bank, really small credit union. And then there's ways that we can work with them to fix that. But experience is very much the same.
Absolutely. And then I want to show off one other thing. I'm going to go back to that other landlord account that's still pending. If I go take a look at my tenant, now this is my other landlord account, you'll see that my tenant was invited to the portal, right? And if I click into my tenant's information here, this is showing me there's no payment method on file. Now remember, I just added that method of payment for my other landlord. So if we go here, check out our tenant, and we have the bank account added right here. So you can keep track of that and see where your tenants are in the process. So Sasha is going to go ahead and submit the payment for this remaining $500. You can see I don't have the option to make a partial payment here. Let's go ahead and submit that payment. Oh no, I have insufficient funds. What is this, Adrian?
Yeah, so another way that we work to protect landlords from receiving payments that we know are going to fail is we'll check the renter's bank account if they've logged in before they process it, just so that we don't get in a situation where it says that they paid on the 1st, but then their payment fails 3 days later. Meanwhile, you're waiting for that to come through. So we try to preemptively protect landlords as much as possible from getting any kind of false signal that something's been paid prior to. And then, it kind of works the same with cards. Cards are secured forms of payment. So if they don't have the balance, they're not going to process either. So that's usually what happens there.
Perfect. So I don't get paid till tomorrow. I can't make this partial payment, but I can go ahead and set up auto pay. So if I click on enroll in auto pay, we have our payment method up here, and the renter can of course update that if they like a different method of payment. We've got our receipt down here from that other payment, that partial payment we made and recorded as a landlord. And I'm going to click enroll in auto pay. Now you'll see here that I'm able to select this charge. So this is that monthly recurring charge. I'm only able to set up auto pay on monthly recurring charges. So if a tenant has, let's say, a utility charge that you go in and you manually input as a one-time charge every month based on usage, that will not be rolled into the recurring charges because that's going to fluctuate each month and it's going to be different. But for these recurring monthly charges, we've got that set up, and we'll click Save Auto Pay. Nice. So when will this come out of my bank account, Adrian?
So that will come out of your bank account on the 1st, pretty much starting when it is actually the 1st in the time zone of the listing. So if you're a landlord and you have a listing on the West Coast, but you're in the East Coast, it's obvious and it's midnight, it's still going to be 9 p.m. In California, for example. Renter won't get charged until 3 hours later. So we really base it based on where that renter is ultimately located in that listing.
And it's not going to come out before the due date, though.
No, it will not come out before the due date.
Perfect. Awesome. And then another feature that we have here for tenants, if we go back into our dashboard, we have the ability to boost credit or build credit with rent payments. Can you tell me a little bit about how this works, Adrian?
Yeah, so essentially if a tenant is making payments and enrolls into rent reporting, they can get that payment cycle reported out to TransUnion, and actually, as a little surprise teaser, we just got approved to report out to Equifax as well. So we'll have 2 out of the 3 major credit bureaus being able to report out to. And it essentially just creates a revolving account with one of those saying that they've been paying, their rent on time. In the case of some of them late, if it goes past like 30 days, and just lets them essentially just help boost their credit to show that they're continually paying something. So
perfect. Then if we go back into our landlord portal, check out our lease and our payments. Okay, we've still got that 500. We've got this set up. Everything looks good on our tenant side of things. If we wanted to take another look at payments, or let's say that you manage multiple units, or you have multiple renters or multiple leases, whatever the case may be, we have this payments tab here. And this is going to give you an overview of your account. So for this month, which is May, remember my charges are due June 1st, so they're not in this month. But for this month in May, I don't have anything past due, unpaid, no charges, nothing deposited, nothing in transit, and nothing paid. Again, because my charges start June 1st. I can click over to year and it will show me all of the years. So previous, coming up. If we go into our charges, this is going to, again, break down those charges. And you can even see that auto pay has been scheduled for this tenant. So you can take a look and say, oh, they haven't submitted a payment, but I see they have already enrolled in auto pay. So you're ready to go there. You can also sort all of your charges by a specific property. You can look at specific leases or categories, statuses, and specific times, as well as exporting those rent payments. And then once those funds have been deposited in your account, you'll be able to track the money here. We didn't talk about deposits. I don't think. What should landlords know about deposits with TurboTenant?
Yeah, so deposits, that tab is just really tracking the other side of that money movement, right? So if you think about charges as money coming in or money kind of being requested to come in, and then deposits as money actually coming into your bank account, we'll show you 2 different statuses. So in transit, so that's usually when a payment has been made electronically and is on the way to your bank account, just so you can track that, has an estimated deposit date that's assigned with it. That varies whether or not you're a free member or a paid subscriber. And then once those get deposited, it essentially just shows you all that relevant information around when it was paid, by who it was paid, what bank account it's getting deposited into, if it was successful, gives you a timeline, stuff like that still. And then it'll even update in the case of, for some reason, a rent payment getting disputed by your renter, or if it ends up failing for some reason too. So all that happens dynamically and just keeps you kind of in the know and lets you know, especially if you use the overview tab, it lets you know kind of what you need to take action on as everything is moving in and out.
Awesome. And speaking of keeping you in the know, we've just released a new feature. I think it was this morning, perhaps, with our notifications. So I went to the account settings under the advanced, and we have these notification preferences. We are very excited about this update. If we go into the email summary here, if you are one of those landlords that has multiple properties or multiple tenants, this is going to be life-changing for you, I think, because you can turn on a daily payment summary and a rent payment deposited summary, so that you're not getting an email every single time. You're getting a summary of the information for all of your tenants at once, which is fantastic. And I'm so excited about this feature. But that was a lot of information and we went kind of quickly. So Krista, how are we doing with questions?
Doing pretty well. You covered one of the more recent ones, so I'll scroll back. We had a question come in about late fees. Specifically, will there be a late fee feature for continual auto late fees? For example, mine is first day late cost $25, but then it's worded so that it costs $5 each day thereafter. The $25 auto sends, but then I have to manually go in and add each continual day.
Yeah, so that's something that's been popping up a little bit more recently. We're considering it. It's kind of an idea on the backlog to tackle that. The reason, and I'll explain that a little bit, the reason that we didn't come out of the gate with it is that if you look at the laws around late fees, there's maybe 1 or 2 states that allow that. The other states are either ambiguous towards it or very definitive and say you can only charge one-time fees, right, in a certain amount and you can't go above that. So Fortunately, we've been having more landlords reach out from those states that allow it. So it's something we're looking into and going to start planning out to more than likely tackle.
Perfect.
Love it. All right. Next question here from David. If I have a short-term rental, can I charge the rental weekly or only monthly?
Right now, you can only do a monthly recurring basis. I mean, what you could do, and it's a little bit of a workaround because we're not really focused on short-term rentals right now, and we haven't gotten a lot of feedback asking for that, is you could split up the amount that you're requesting and create several recurring charges, and they'll all send out appropriately month over month. And that's kind of the hacky solution to it. Just takes a little bit more manual work, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've seen landlords set that up on like a 7-day. So the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, 22nd, so that it charges every week. And then you can, of course, do automatic late fees on the rent charges. So if they do make weekly payments and you still have a late fee to assess, you can certainly set it up that way.
Beautiful. All right. If I received an email that my payment has been paid, how many days does it take to deposit into my account? Is there anything else I need to do to get my deposit, or will it just be auto deposited?
So good question. So you don't need to do anything. It will be auto deposited unless there's an issue with your bank account or anything along those lines. As far as timeline, if you're a free user, our average is around 4 days for ACH. For cards, it's probably a lot lower. It's probably around 2-ish days. And that stays consistent against whether you're premium or not. Premium, though, you can elect to subscribe to that plan, and that'll speed up your deposit timeline for ACH payments. And that gets them to about 2 days or so, 2 business days, just to clarify that. So weekends don't count, holidays don't count. It's just straight up business days if it's done within business hours. So we are at the mercy of banking hours on that. And I'll share a teaser towards the end of it around how you can kind of get around that. And then as Samantha's showing on the screen right now too, there is a risk with expedited payouts in the sense that the ACH network is kind of slow to settle funds. So sometimes, and it's a very rare case, I can tell you it's about 1% of the time, we'll have a renter make a payment and then they'll go out and buy a cup of coffee or something, and then their balance dips. So by the time it actually gets pulled out of their account, it's less than what it should be. And then it usually ends up failing. And what that happens is it kind of just messes up the timeline of when you can get a payment, or if the payment's already been deposited to you because it looked like everything was good, where we have to try to reconcile that and fix it. Doesn't happen a lot, but just in case you're wary of that risk, we do give you the ability to turn that off and on as one of the features of premium. There's a lot more to premium though, so don't let this dissuade you from that.
Yeah, to give you just a peek at premium, I see there's a couple more questions that came in. On this account, I do have premium, and these are the tools that I've unlocked. So boost marketing or prioritized marketing, that means when I'm trying to find a tenant and I've created my listing, it is going to be prioritized over the non-premium users in terms of getting that pushed out to third-party sites. You're also going to get those enhanced rent payments, like we mentioned, the faster deposits, the unlimited bank accounts, the waived ACH fee. You have access to income insights, which is a perk on our screening reports with TransUnion. You've got unlimited customized state-specific lease agreements, as well as unlimited electronic signature requests, phone support, live chat, and we are frequently adding more things. If you have questions about any of these features or premium itself, again, we do have that onboarding course where I go through every single one of the features of TurboTenant, and you can ask questions there in that course as well. All right, let's see. I saw somebody asked about the rent reporting.
Yes. Could you please show again how a tenant can submit rent payments to credit reporting services?
Perfect. So I'm on the tenant's dashboard here. I can either go into the settings area or onto the payments tab, and well, there we go, billing. And we've got turn on rent reporting right here. There is a help center article if you have more questions about how that works. This is also great to send to tenants too if they have a question. And then you click turn on rent reporting. There we go. And that will report on time and early payments. to TransUnion.
Fantastic. And that works automatically, right? There's nothing else for the renter to do.
Once they're enrolled, they do have to, I did go through the process already on this renter account to input my personal information. So again, verifying that I am who I say I am and that my information is being reported for the correct person. So I had already gone through that flow here. And then it is, I believe, $4.99 a month for tenants for that rent reporting.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Pam asks, can I input a FAR bar realtor blank lease?
Yeah, so if you're referring to a lease agreement, you certainly can. The leases here in TurboTenant, somebody's saying the screen is blank. Is it looking okay to you all?
Looks good to me. Sorry, Tara, that might be something on your end. If you want to leave and come back, that might solve it, but it's looking good to me.
Okay. So the leases here, these are going to be our lease profiles. So this is not the lease agreement, contract, or document. This is instead like an old school file folder where we put all the information for a specific renter, for a specific rental, for a specific period of time. So you do have to add these details for the lease profile, which is done right here. Just fill in the blanks. And then if you have your own lease agreement, you can upload a document that has already been signed if you just want to store it, or you can upload a document to send it out to be signed. And we did do a lease demo in chat last week or the week before where I go through this a little bit more in depth, as well as in that onboarding course. So we do have resources available for that as well.
Absolutely, we do. Okay. So it looks like we have a question in the chat about the length of time. So a premium member asked, they said, I got my first email yesterday that I received my rent payment. So if I heard correctly, it could take 2 business days.
It looks like Adrian tried to respond to you, but sent just to hosts and panelists.
Yep, my bad. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, so yes, on average, it should take about 2 to 3 business days from that time of payment. The factor that obviously affects that the most is just if the renter paid it inside or outside of business hours. But like I said, our average is about 2.5 days or so. Business days. I got to make sure I say that.
Yeah, and as Adrian said, we are beholden to the banks in terms of this timeline because they have to settle the money. So we rely on business hours quite a bit. Another question, does the system interface with QuickBooks?
So not directly, no. It's rather difficult to partner with QuickBooks at our level kind of thing. We do have a partnership with an accounting software that is pretty much like TurboTenant in the sense that it's built for professional kind of use around real estate specifically. So it's tailor-made to essentially just rental property investment and management. So you won't have to deal with pretty much learning QuickBooks and all the functionality that corresponds to 1,000 different things. And yeah, it's cheaper than QuickBooks as well. I mean, if you're beholden to QuickBooks because your CPA that you use on a regular basis is wanting that to be the case, that is the reason why we allow exportation of the data of your charges or deposits through the payments dashboard.
Beautiful. Okay. Looks like just one more question. Adrian, what do you think is the best part of our rent payments feature?
Everything. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, my team especially has done a lot of work just to make sure that we can move your money securely and as fast as possible. And we make the experience to, invoice your tenants as easy and as intuitive as possible. And we're continually trying to just update that. So, I mean, overall, it's kind of a cop out, but I would say the best part of it is just it's very focused on the experience of the landlord, getting everything set up and getting it set out and not having to really worry about doing anything manually and just letting a lot of it be automated. So from creating recurring charges, to having reminders sent out, to not having to click a button to, make sure that the deposit's actually going through. I think that's the biggest call out, against like Venmo, PayPal, et cetera, is like You get paid, but it sits there until you say you want it to come out to your bank account. We just automate everything and kind of let you just go on about your day. And then the same thing with the renters, we keep it very focused on the actions they need to take and just make it as easy as possible for them to pay you and not have any issues. So a little cop out, but I think it's just the general user experience at the end of the day for rent payments that really comes to mind for me.
Absolutely.
I actually would like to piggyback on that. All of that, but also I think the coolest thing about it is that we actually do listen to feedback from landlords and renters. So like this thing that I showed you here, this invited to portal and this payment method, these are features that have been added in like the last, 2 weeks, maybe a month, because landlords were requesting it.
Yeah, about a month ago. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of one of the common features, and it was an easy win to put it in there for landlords, just to make their job a lot easier and not have to reach out to their tenants and be like, hey, like, I don't know if you're going to pay me, because it was all a little bit nebulous there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do have any questions that come up along the way about rent payments, about using TurboTenant, if you're logged into your portal, there's always this little chat bubble down here you can click on. This will help get you in touch with our support team. If you are a premium plan subscriber, you already have that live chat access unlocked, so you don't need to do anything extra. If you are one of our free users, you can expect a response in under 24 hours. And then we also have this need help tab over here on the left. If we click into there, you'll see that as a premium member, I have the ability to schedule a phone call with customer support. I can also visit the help center. So these are going to be step-by-step guides and walkthrough instructions on using TurboTenant. I can also send a message. And if you're looking for that onboarding course, we're going to hop into Academy here. And you'll see there I am right here for the free onboarding course. So you can walk through using TurboTenant. Did we have any other questions come up, Krista? Got one more screen. There we go.
No, it looks like we have answered all of the questions. So now it's our turn to ask you just a couple final queries here. Gonna go ahead and just one.
Just question.
Really curious how you enjoyed this event. We are always looking to take your feedback and offer you even better events, products, etc. So thank you in advance for sharing your perspective.
Yeah.
And while everyone answers that, I'll give you a little sneak peek onto what's coming out for rent payment soon. So 2 big features to call out is one called entity management. It sounds complex, but really all it is the ability for landlords to go in and just reflect the business structures that they have. So in the case that we talked about at the beginning of like, I'm managing properties for my brother, for example, that doesn't restrict me from also managing properties for myself, managing properties for my mom or anything along those lines. I can accurately reflect all that, have all the information correct, so that, those payments don't get restricted or nothing goes wrong and all the money flows really easily. And so, if you're a large landlord and you have, 5 LLCs, 6 LLCs, what have you, you'll be able to input all that information, all the respective bank accounts, and just make sure that your money doesn't ever get interrupted because of a security reason. And then another one, so similar to Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, etc., we are implementing instant payouts. So similar to those applications, whenever a payment gets made, for about 2 days or so, you'll have the option to go in and elect to instantly pay that out. So when I was alluding to earlier, we have a solution to the holiday problem, to the weekend problem. This is it. So you can pay those out on the weekend, you can pay them out on a holiday, and typically they'll get deposited into your bank account within about an hour. There's a fee associated with that. Good news is it's not going to be more than Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App. And in some cases, it might even be lower. So those are the 2 things that are coming out, this quarter. So what do I mean by that? Before the end of June. So yeah.
Awesome. And we will have one final survey at the end of this webinar. We would love if you could take a moment to answer that survey, especially if you have any feedback on how we can improve. We do actually read the feedback and we love to hear it and see it and act on it. So there is a survey that's going to pop when we end this webinar, and I would really just appreciate and love if you could all take a moment to fill out those last final questions. But I believe we've done it. We've demoed and chatted about the rent payments.
We have.
Yep. No, thank you. Thank you all for putting this together. And the last call I'll say for the people that are remaining here, if you want a direct line to me, it's really easy. My email is adrian@turbotenant.com. Feel free to ask me for help or give me feedback as much as you want.
Beautiful. Awesome. All right. Well, Samantha, you have been a treasure as always. Adrian, thank you for popping in and offering your expertise. Everyone, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember to take that survey at the end. Thanks.